Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com, as well as on Amazon. I have another announcement. Please notify your Attorney General in your state regarding solar panels made by Sonova Generac Systems. If you're having any difficulty with this company, please fill out the complaint form on your Attorney General site in your state. And I'm proud to have Cristin Badal back on. She was last on March 6th of 2025. And today we're going to talk about anti-SLAPP. Now, the anti-SLAPP is basically a law for strategic lawsuits against public participation, and they are designed to protect individuals from lawsuits that seek to silence or intimidate them for exercising their First Amendment right, such as freedom of speech and petition. So I have a friend, Mark Andrews. Here he is. Everyone can see him. He's in my Raised by These Wolves, the first one, and Raised by These Wolves Volume 2. He is chapter 24. He won an anti-SLAPP in Sonoma County. So it can be done. And what had happened with him was he's a process server. And Susan Bassey has been covering his case. Now, I don't have a lot of information on his case as far as the anti-SLAPP, but he did let me know that he won it. So right now I'm going to talk to Cristin Badal because apparently some attorney's upset. Jessica Oregano Sprague is upset because she wrote a letter to Dear Judge Bogard, and now she's going on a trip to Cabo, and it's sponsored by the Bar Association. And due to this trip, it's keeping her child away from her, which is child psychological abuse. So tell me more, Cristin. What is happening? Your poor son needs to see you.
Yeah, I have to apologize for just laughing there. No part of this is funny, except you did bring a little levity. It's actually Jessica Ragnos Frog,
Oh,
but
okay.
Jessica Oreganos Frog. Actually, it sounds less
It
awful
sounds
to
more
me.
healthy.
It does sound more healthy. She
Yeah.
certainly could use some of that. But thank you again for that little that giggle on this dark day. And I appreciate the opportunity to come back. I like I said, I admire you extremely.
Oh,
Through the roof. You are fantastic. What you do is so important. I'm really happy to hear about your friend who is had the courage to stand up and was victorious. I hope to hear a lot more of that happening throughout the country. As you know, President Trump has announced that he's not taking this anymore. There will be no more abuse of process. Free speech is back. Freedom of press is protected, and it turns out that it's not in the best interest of the American public or our nation as a whole to suppress persons who wish to come out and speak publicly about the atrocities they are experiencing, especially when it's at the hands of our elected officials. So congratulations to your friend. I'm sorry, what was the name of or the cover of that book? I
oh,
wanted to
yeah,
see
it
that
was
again if I
Mark
could.
Andrews is in it, as well as other parents and their stories.
I
This
love it.
this came out August, or actually July of 2024. So there's,
That's
people's stories
phenomenal.
in here, and you can learn from them. There's a lot to learn from. I hate to say, unfortunately, what a parent could have done, should have, and what they did do to be victorious. And, we have to learn from each other, even if there are mistakes made, you know.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I think that my learning really took a turn when I started, working with other advocacy groups and people that focus on this for their lives, that have been in it for a while, and
Hmm.
certainly speaking to the other people out there. I mean, these courts are it's surreal. It's hard to believe, actually.
Right.
So the last time that I was on your show, and thank you again for that opportunity. I tried to tell my story, and I didn't mention the names of many of the politicians that are involved. I tried to stick strictly to the people that I can say are directly related to my litigation. And unfortunately, I think I may have hit a few too many nerves.
Mhm.
So, like I mentioned, my husband launched his silver bullet in 2022. I have never been deemed unfit. I've never been deemed dangerous, abusive, neglectful. In fact, during my husband's restraining order trial, he was asked, "Do you have any fear of Miss Badal?" He said, "No, I do not." There was no predicate act of violence. Literally, there wasn't a single in New Jersey to get a restraining order. You have to meet certain criteria. It's the Silverton standard.
Mhm.
And upon extensive review from several, there are people from UCLA and all over the country looking into this. Unfortunately, it's had to get to this national attention level to seek justice and to get people to stand up and speak out. No criteria were met. And again, I went
Mhm.
to law school. I've had a pretty extensive education, and if I went into that courtroom with a lawyer and as much education as I came to with the law, being a government contractor, vice president of a corporation for years, and working in the field that I did with law enforcement, and even being a local planning board member myself, if I didn't know what was happening, then I can't imagine how people are getting treated that don't have any sort of structure or understanding of the law. It has got to be horrific.
Mhm.
So I really, really, like I said last time, I advise anybody who finds themselves in a situation where they're sitting there thinking, something doesn't feel right. This is not fair. I'm. It's going to get better if I just tell the truth. If I just play if I just do what they tell me. If I I'd advise you to pick up the phone and call Marianne, myself, Jill Soderman, Richard Luthman, somebody, because you're not what you're suspecting is not it's not wrong. You're correct, and you're walking into a nightmare. But in any case, so the last time I was on your show, several media outlets have picked up the story, and I've never spoken. Probably my biggest failing is that I'm honest to a fault,
Mhm.
and I've been accused of that a lot, verbose. I probably say more than I should, but the one thing I don't do is lie, and I try not to ever say anything that I can't prove with evidence, and I certainly haven't done that in this case. Like I mentioned, the Department of Treasury has determined the fraud that I've spoken of. The judge himself, the lawyer was found not dead. The signatures are disputed across the board. There even if these things weren't present, the contract in and of itself is, there's the judge himself, it's multiple judges in Morris County, even, which is alarming,
Mhm.
have mentioned that no, it's not. There were no assets and liabilities, and the ones that he's claiming are there now are not accurate. They weren't accurate for the time. They have scratch throughs. There's no it's ridiculous. In any case, and everything that I've mentioned about the GOP and the involvement of the first judge in my case and so forth. Nothing was mentioned without evidence.
Mhm.
And having said that, I guess it really hit the ceiling last week when, this whole time I've kind of thought, oh, my husband will come around, he's going to look
Mhm.
at my son, my 7-year-old child crying and,
Mhm.
Daddy, please, please, why can't I see mommy? And, I have never spoken bad about my husband as much as it hurts. I would never, ever subject my child to that. So, as far as
Right.
I'm concerned, you know what? This is just between Daddy and I, and we love you, and it's going to be okay.
Mhm.
But I have been separated from my child for almost 3 years without due process and without fair access to every right that I have under the Constitution in the state of New Jersey. I am now, against my will, I was forced 18 months ago to move to Florida to be near my child, and I still can't see him. And I keep getting, every time I tell the court, please, the first emergency motion that I filed with this new judge was in September of 2024, and we are now in March. The last thing I said, if you got almost 30 months at that point, please release us under the UCCJEA. My husband told you he's never coming back. I have no rights. At least let a court that's here, that's a convenient forum that currently holds jurisdiction over our child and us as citizens of Florida, just
Mhm.
let us go. And they just keep telling me he's not an emergency. We're not going to do it. Now,
Imagine that. A
the
child is not an emergency. What's in the best interest of the child? Apparently, going to Cabo is, but continue.
Thank you for that. And I try, I get so obviously it hurts a lot, but yes, in January of 2024, my judge looked at the attorney and said, Mrs. Sprague, I've got nothing. I have no reason to keep this child from her anymore. I gave you everything. Give me something I can't do this. It's going to be shared custody. This is before anything else about the assault and everything came out that was too embarrassing to put on the record for him. But in any case, he said, I need something and I've got nothing. And she said, Your Honor, just give me, please, please, please. So they held it off. Then he took a 7-month sabbatical, so he never had to answer. Then I filed recusal. But in any case, for that motion, I said, Your Honor, nobody has ever even asked me. You call him RJ. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say my son's name. You call him the wrong name. And, you've never applied the best interest standard. You've talked about how she has moxie and you don't have any fear of my parenting or my danger or my fitness or anything. And yet you just will not, you've never issued a supervision order. You've never made a ruling on custody other than to award us joint legal custody. And my husband tells me that if I show up at a school play, I'm going to be arrested. If I show up at a doctor's office, you will be arrested on site. He literally had an armed sheriff at my son's Thanksgiving Day first grade play
Oh my
because the judge
God.
said, even that guy said, and it's pitiful. Supervised visitation in Florida, you're required to have a court order. So, I mean, you can get anybody off the street, any criminal that you want or anybody who's not licensed or has no idea what they're doing. Sure, you can do that, especially when there's no court order. And the court has said he's not an emergency to this court. But what we will say is that you guys are free to come up with any parenting plan you
Oh,
want. You can do anything. And if you can't figure something out amongst yourselves, then, use supervised visitation. Well, that doesn't really work when one person has all of the power. I
right.
can't do anything. So it's basically like, Cristin, do what he says or don't, or you can use supervision. And as bad as that is, I've said, Your Honor, I know this isn't your jurisdiction. We're in Florida, you're in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Horrible Rognose Frog, I know this isn't your jurisdiction. What you guys are not aware is I've gone to the court and I have worked with the clerk and I have spoken to them and I'm trying to respect the court process. However, they have informed me that there is no way that you can utilize their supervised vetted providers under any circumstances. You don't have a court order for supervision. My husband refuses to attend the 4-hour co-parenting course. And
Yep.
even if you did have any of these things, no vetted supervisor is going to allow you to violate Florida law and statute, and risk their entire licensure without. It has to be updated every 180. You've been here 18 months. What's going on up there? Just come down here. Domesticate down here. Ask them to release under the UCCJEA. We have to protect this child. So I do everything I'm supposed to do and apply for that. And they say, no, sorry, that's not an emergency either. So everything I get is not an emergency. And I keep getting pushed
Oh,
off.
well, then these are a bunch of child psychological abusers.
Yeah.
That's in the DSM-5 V995.51. So they're okay with abusing a child. So then this attorney Jessica Regno Sprague, what a name. You know what? I would change one of those names. Anyway, okay,
It's the
so
least of her concerns for the things that she should change. I assure you of that. And hopefully
oh
her status and possession of a licensure will also be one of the first
oh
things to change.
that
She's
too.
diabolical.
And God's going to deal with these people, you know.
Yes, yes, that I do believe. I absolutely do, and that's the only thing that keeps me even keeled, and I trust in the Lord, and I do have faith, and everything in His timing. So I'm grateful that my story isn't worse.
Mm.
Um, but I'm beginning to seriously worry about my son's emotional well-being and mental state. It's not okay. When I found out that in the first 6 months he was going to school every single day in kindergarten and telling his teachers that mommy is going to be home soon, and having accidents in the classroom,
Oh,
I almost broke in half. And thankfully that is better now, and he is doing well. And as my husband constantly tells me, he's healthy and happy. Just go away, leave us alone.
Oh,
We're going to
that's
move
what mine
on
was saying to
without
me
you.
too. It must be a standard line for these abusers.
My husband's 70 years old, or almost. And, he's hired a full-time live-in nanny with,
Who's probably
not a lot of
22.
background. She's young. She's young, and
Yeah.
I'm actually grateful. She's a
Mm,
Catholic. She's level-headed. She
we
seems
hope.
to be in an impossible situation, but if it was just my son with my husband, I would never sleep at night.
Mm-mm.
At least there's somebody there that knows what they're doing. My husband wants nothing to do with my kid. He's a bargaining chip. He's a chess piece. And now he's a terrorization weapon. He's using him to terrorize me and retaliate against me.
Hmm.
In fact, so the whole point of this is that when I sent out about, I don't know, 8 different FOIAs and OPRA requests, public
Mm.
requests for information, which I should have, or my lawyers $300,000 ago should have done from the very start, right along with finding out whether or not the attorney really was alive or dead. Nothing was done correctly, and it turns out that not only was Judge Bogart before my husband on the council in his official capacity before he was appointed to the bench, but my lawyer was too. It's a disgusting network of collusion that's going on, and I'm very grateful for all the executive orders that have recently come out. I have confidence in this administration to take care of this properly. And in any case, after I guess my husband and my attorney probably got notices from every agency that got they were all police departments. They were all town administrators. I knew most of them. Margot Kay is now the clerk of Morristown, which is where the court is. And I was like, wow, I'm so happy for her. But I know all of these people. I've worked for them all. So I'm sure when they saw my name come through and the things that I had to put in there, it caused quite a stir. Within 24 hours, there was an amazing scrambling of documentation put together that contains absolutely no proof, no fact, nothing not whatsoever, no evidence of any kind that meets any evidentiary standards in law or even just common sense. But the Miss Sprague did retaliate immediately, and you know, something I've realized happens a lot. It's not just to President Trump with the case in Florida where he was gagged, and
Hmm.
fortunately he came out of that
Hmm.
somewhat better off than I expected, but surprisingly has little tolerance for these oppressive, strategic gag orders to silence people who are unfortunately broadcasting the truth about what's going on. So she just simply, the strangest thing is she filed a motion in our new judge. Our new judge is Caroline Oliveira. She has taken over the case. She has made it very clear. Judge Bogart has said, don't call me again. Don't talk to me again. I'm gone. I'm out unofficially, but I'm not allowed to talk about this anymore or be involved. So she sends it to her docket, but addresses Judge Bogart because I've never said anything bad about Caroline Oliveira. And it's all about them because, I haven't seen her. I mean, I've seen her, but she hasn't actually done anything. So I have no real complaints except
Hmm.
for, please, my son is an emergency. So in any case, she addresses it to Judge Bogart, and she wants a gag order, an injunction, and they essentially are saying if she doesn't make every single media outlet take down their articles, their journalist activities, their broadcasting of this, and what do I what do I like? What do I have, like, power over the media?
No, because
What?
I heard that as soon as you put a video up on YouTube, it's already copyrighted. I heard
I
that. I don't know if that, yeah, I'm not into
I'm
copyright
sure
law,
you're
but
correct. This is your,
I don't
certainly your
know.
area.
I,
And
I,
even if I wanted to, picturing calling a Columbia grad, Richard Luthman, who is, a smart among smart. He is something to be reckoned with. I can't call that man up and ask him to actually command him because they've told me essentially, we recommend that you cease all contact. I won't even get phone calls with my son unless I'm gagged and me and you obey and everyone else obeys. It's outrageous. It is outrageous. This is the United States of America.
yeah.
And you know what? And I want my son to know, if God forbid I end up like Monica Ciardi on some trumped up charge, and heaven knows, I don't see how they can do it with the anti-slap laws. I'm not in their jurisdiction. I've begged to come back. Maybe you should have thought about that before what's the word? Exiled me 2,000 miles away. So I'm here in Florida. I haven't spoken anything exact except what I can prove with things that are already on the court record. She wants the record sealed. That's her primary objective. She writes to Oliveira's court begging Bogart to please consider the ramifications and seal the record immediately. She has a hearing first thing tomorrow morning at 8. My son can't get a hearing no matter how many emergency motions that I file. She filed hers on Friday at 6 p.m. She has a hearing 8:30 Monday morning tomorrow.
Oh.
Because it's in their best interest that they shut me up and seal the record. Well, they can't really shut me up because I really haven't told any lies. And everything is, like I said, there's proof of every single allegation that I've made. But she is trying to have the record sealed for my son's protection. Which,
Oh, no,
I don't really see how that makes any sense. But
is your ex paying this Jessica
probably
Regnos
about $1
fine?
million so far. Probably.
Oh,
They've also got about a $260,000 slush fund that was built into my escrow, which is still sitting there. He has 7 attorneys, and the judge told me, you know what, you've already had an attorney. Why should I give you another one? You can't touch your money. But I was told in
oh my God.
May or June, we're not doing anything with visitation or custody until you sell that house. Let Mr. Badal go. He has a right as a victim of verbal harassment to move on with his life with no financial penalty. And he wants to go to Florida. You guys have a beautiful asset down there, and he should be able to take that one too. So if you want to let him go, we'll talk about custody of your son. So I did it. Nothing changed. Nothing. I
Oh,
mean, the level of crime is like, it's really, it sounds nuts and it sounds surreal and it sounds like a Lifetime original Sally Field movie, but that's exactly what it is.
mm-hmm.
This is January 6th, right here.
Mm-hmm.
So, my hope is that they do not prevail. I don't see what legal basis they have. Again, I feel protected by the anti-SLAPP law. I am within my rights under the Constitution to speak out publicly about violations of law and criminal acts. Even licensed board attorneys. Maybe you can't do it in New Jersey, but you know what? It's not even me. It's the media. What are you going to do? There's a former Supreme clerk of the Supreme Court justice who's publishing about this. What are they going to do? They're going to stop him too? How am I going to stop him? I've never even spoken to the guy. This is all over. Monica Ciardi's being picked up by the Chicago Tribune and the LA Times. What was
Mm-hmm.
she supposed to do? Tell the LA Times take it down, or else Bogart's going to throw me in jail.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that does not happen, and it's really time for change. I'm very excited about these executive orders that have been coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks as though Trump gave a speech. I know last time I spoke of his speech before Congress, and 2 days ago, I believe he gave a speech before the Department of Justice. And I think we're all aware that he's cleaning house. And he just said there will not be any more of these big, huge, impossibly moneyed law firms with government security clearances,
Mm-hmm.
getting rich off of government contracts and using that to silence dissenters and people who are being abused by the process, and elected officials that we have placed our trust. And we happen to not be. I mean, New Jersey it's like a whole other
Beast.
twilight zone, but it's everywhere. It is everywhere. They're
Right.
gagging people all over the country.
It's
It's unreal. I've
uh,
never seen so many gag orders in my life. I don't even think I knew what those were. A gag order should be a protection of national security. It should be a protection of somebody speaking mistruths or lacking fact. None of those things apply here.
mm-mm.
I'm sorry that you guys have broken the law and you happen to hold positions that makes that extremely unfortunate. Um, and you're perpetrating child trafficking. This is a federal matter. There's no way of avoiding a federal investigation here. And it wasn't what I wanted. I've been the stupid, sweet demure, obedient. I've given a hair follicle test. My husband has called me a psychotic. I just learned what that means today. Psychotic means that you have like a break from reality. I
Oh,
was listening to a neurologist today that I'm working with to produce an amazing wealth of testimony that I have never suffered from any of these mental illnesses, and it's I challenge them to bring a rebuttal witness. Their 40-year heroin addict from Rutgers with a 30-hour certificate is not going to pass, even if they did falsely put the MD after his name and falsify documents. This is going to this is it's impressive actually. I'm excited to show the extent of this. What is he? He is a neurosurgeon, forensic evaluator specialist who's cleared 300 million in civil liability recovery in cases like mine, where I have been falsely accused of possessing mental disorders without evidence, just Justice Magnus Frog's word, and been violated. And I wasn't after any of this.
mhm.
I've literally told my husband, keep everything, give me my kid, and you can have it all. And I'm sure he would have happily bit. But unfortunately, I think some of his dirty buddy contractors are like, no, you gotta use that kid against her. Otherwise, you can't keep her quiet. And all right. So if he gives me custody of my son, which is literally the only thing I have asked for this whole time, he took my health insurance, my assets, my retirement accounts, my credit cards, my good name, my ability to finish my last semester of the program of school I was doing, everything. Just give me my child or share
Right.
custody and attend the co-parenting classes.
He won't
And
do
you
that
can
though.
keep all of the money. No, because they won't allow me to sign over what doesn't belong to me. Even though he tried to put no
Oh,
child support into his false prenuptial agreement, it violates the law. So he would take it, I'm sure, if he could, but they won't let him. So I'm in just like he told me, just leave us alone. He's happy without you. Let him forget you. And it'll never happen. Not in this lifetime, not in any other.
well, you cannot co-parent with a personality disorder. Then you've got their attorneys that are personality disorders. I would like to have this one here, this Jessica Oregano Sprague, be evaluated.
That would
I
be a
want to I want to know what
scary.
her problem is, that she would psychologically abuse a child and put a trip to Cabo before a child's well-being. And New Jersey Bar Association is sponsoring that. Her first concern should be for the child. She may not like you. Who cares? This is a 7-year-old, and she doesn't care. She'd rather go to Cabo. Well, God's watching.
Yeah, I think he stopped watching her a long time ago. But I repent for that. That's not very nice. I think it goes back. I think it goes back to the very beginning when, unfortunately, and I hate to say this, hopefully I'm wrong, but I really believe that this wasn't my husband's idea. My husband is mean and unethical and dangerous, but he's incredibly intelligent, and he's been very careful his entire life to stay within reasonable parameters of law, or at least make it appear so. This is flagrant abuse of process and crime as a federal government contract holder, that violates every FAR regulation that there is, and he stands to lose everything,
Mhm.
if not his freedom. And I think when she talked him into this, we'll get her. Well, don't worry, we're gonna crush her. I've got all the judges. I've got everything. Whatever she said, and she's just been milking it. And now they're probably to a point where I would imagine my husband expects to get what he paid for, and she's not producing because I'm not a crazy gun
Mhm.
theft, violent, heroin addict with needles hanging out of my ears, like they have tried to paint me. In
Mhm.
fact, part of this gag order is that if I don't undergo yet another psychiatric evaluation, I can't talk to my son, which is all I get every day. I mean, I honestly, I just don't know how they sleep at night. I really don't.
No.
And I can say that she was passed over for a judicial appointment last year
Oh, good.
by the grace of God. And if that woman is ever appointed, like, heaven help the citizens of New Jersey. She is,
Yeah.
as a born again Christian, I try and be extremely careful with my words, and I recognize that everyone uh, is beloved by our Creator and is capable of redemption. However, I really think that she's a danger to families,
Yeah, she
and I
is.
don't think it would be the worst. I think it would be one of the better things that happens in New Jersey for somebody for the attorneys to see and the bar associations to finally be given an example of, no, we will not tolerate this anymore, no more. And if it were
Mhm.
up to me and I got to elect somebody to be the first one to be tried for their crimes against family law and the families of New Jersey, she would be at the top of my list.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what a
Yeah.
shame. I'm sorry you're going through this.
Thank you very much. It's
Oh, I'm glad you came on to discuss this. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I appreciate you letting me come on, and I'm sorry if I seem overly pessimistic or angry. I really don't mean to be. I'm
Well,
grateful.
your child's at stake. Your child's mental health is at stake. I don't know what these people don't get. This is child psychological abuse to keep a child away from a parent, and you're a fit parent.
I love my son, and before this happened, I had never been away from him one day in 5 years. I went through a lot of IVF to have him. He is my world. He is what I wake up for. He is my reason for living, and I can't tell you how it feels to have a 7-year-old a mile away crying,
Oh, geez.
and I can't do anything. I
Well,
can't help. I sent the video to the court, and they don't care.
well, I'm just throwing this out there, but it's too bad you can't call Child Protective Services on this emotional abuse that's being put on your child.
I
Uh,
did. I did
oh, good.
actually. And I was told that Florida cannot help because the case is in New Jersey. And then I called DCPP in New Jersey, and they said, there's nothing we can do. Your child's in Florida. And then I told the
Oh,
court, and they said, not our problem.
well, that's
And I'm
child
not allowed at the
trafficking.
school. Yeah, is that, yeah. I mean, I hate to
Terrible.
I don't want to involve my kid in like these crazy, I don't want to become one of these people. I
No,
just want my husband to stop. Please. There's nothing I wouldn't do for my son. And I
right.
thought we were on the same page. You can hate me, whatever, but everything that you're doing is destroying our son's mom. He has a right to me.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
isn't right. This is against God's order. This is against right and wrong. This is against every human decency and everything that we promised each other. And I don't understand what in the world
No.
is I mean, you know what? I guess I think that my husband has been telling everyone he loves to play martyr. And
Hmm.
I think that he has been telling, because as soon as I depart, there's no one in that world that I want anything from. I mean,
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm done, and now I'm not allowed at the school. I'm not allowed in our neighborhood. I
So
can't go to
wrong.
gym. I can't go to sports games. I can't go to school plays. I can't show up at the doctors. So everywhere he goes, he's pretty much telling everybody that woe is me. I'm the
Uh-huh.
martyr. She's violent. She tried to do this. She's what heaven knows what he's out there telling. To be honest, I'm scared to depose people. I really am. I'm scared to find out. And I think that we'll probably have to move to another state to avoid the level of embarrassment that he's going to feel when everyone realizes that he is a pathological sociopath who's been lying to everybody. And he
Right.
got away with it with the courts because they were a part of it in New Jersey, but that's not here. So they're fighting like heck to keep this out of the Florida courts. The Florida courts are going to look at this and say, what in the world? He's unfit. If anyone's unfit, I'm sorry to say this.
Yeah.
I want to do co-parenting. I want him to get some help, and I am not looking to hurt anybody. I just want justice, and I don't want to be silenced or gagged, and I don't want to be, punished for trying to fight for my child. He's 7 years old.
Have some
Wake up.
mercy. Ugh,
Thank you. I'm sorry, but I'm like
you're
on my
fine.
now.
You're fine. How can people reach you if they have any questions?
You can reach me via email, CRISTIN2024 at proton.me, PROTON.me.
I'll put that on there because when you were on last, I have it there too. And I'd like to have you back on for an update because I know there will be an update. But don't jump off, okay?
Okay.
Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms. Again, with YouTube, please like and subscribe. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. And thank you, Cristin, for speaking out. Everyone needs to know what an anti-slap is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I really appreciate it.